Hi guys, in this video we're going to have a look at factorising into single brackets. So this is a slight change on how I've done this, and I hope it'll make it a little bit easier to do. So let's get cracking. So factorising is just the process of putting an expression like this back into brackets. So definitely catch my expanding single brackets before watching this video, because I will be sort of using the same method but just going backwards. So the first thing to do is have a look at what you've been given, and just like if you're expanding brackets, you draw a grid like so. And this is where it's slightly different, because all I want you to do is whatever is here we stick underneath the grid like so. And when we're factorising, we have to work out the highest common factor. So remember, the highest common factor is the biggest number that goes into 2 and to 6. In this case, the biggest number that goes into 2 and 6 is 2. That's the highest common factor. Once you've got the highest common factor, we write it on the outside of my grid like so. And then we deal with the numbers, and then we deal with the letters. So when I say we deal with the numbers, we say, okay, 2 times by what gets me 2? Well, that's easy, it's 1. And I've dealt with that number, so I can cross it out. The next thing, 2 times by what gets me 6? Well, 2 times 3 is 6, and I can put my plus in there because that's also going to be plus. So I've now dealt with that number. We'll then have a look at the letters, and we'll see if any letters need to come out. But in this case, I'm only left with the X, so I can't cancel anything out. We'll do an example of that later. So what am I left with? I'm left with X, so that just goes up the top there, and I've dealt with that. Now, on this side, whatever's been taken out, that goes on the outside of the brackets, so I've got 2. And just like if we're expanding single brackets, whatever's on top up here, that's going to go inside the bracket. The only thing is 1x, we can obviously simplify just to be x, and then of course I have my plus 3. And don't forget, you should always expand these again just to double check you do get the right answer. Okay, let's have a look at this one then. Same thing, draw your grid. And I've got 15a minus 9, and then I need to find out my highest common factor. So the highest number that goes into 15 and 9, in this case that's going to be 3, and then that goes on the outside of my grid like so. Deal with the numbers then. So 3 times by what gets me 15? Well, that's going to be 5, and then I've dealt with that 15. 3 times what gets me 9? Again, that's going to be 3, dealt with that, and of course we can put the minus up there. And then we can deal with the letters. Again, there's only one letter left here, which is A. I can't do nothing with that, so that goes up there. And we write our answer, 3 on the outside, and then whatever's on top, in this case it's 5a minus 3, goes inside the brackets like so. Okay, getting a bit more interesting now then. So let's have a look at this one. So this is ever so slightly different. So we draw the grid, but the difference here is I have b squared, which means b times b, in which case, instead of writing b squared or b times b, I'm going to put bb, because I have 2 of them. Putting them together like this, if you're simplifying expressions, your bb just means b times b, so it would be b squared. So whenever you have something like that, we just write it out as many times as you need to. We've got some more complicated ones up here later, which should hopefully make that a bit clearer. So b squared, bb, and then minus 2b. So that's the only difference so far. Highest common factor is the same. What's the highest number that goes into 5 and 2? Well, in that case, it's just 1. So you can put the 1 here if you wish, but we'll simplify that later. So 1 times what gets me 5? 5. And I'm done with that, I can cross it off. 1 times what gets me 2? Well, that's going to be a 2. So again, I can cross that off, and of course I have my minus. So this is where it's slightly different, because when you've got the same letter on both sides, in this case I have 1b here and 1b here, they need to be taken out because they're common to both sides. So I'm going to cross off 1b there and 1b from this side, and I'm going to bring that out because it's on both sides. I can't do it again because I've got another b here, but I don't have another b here. I crossed off 1, which means I'm left with 1 here. And if you're left with it, just like we did up here, we put it in the top there. So again, let's write our final answer. I've got 1b on the outside, but again, 1b can be simplified to just b, and then I have my 5b minus 2 that was left on the top to go inside my brackets like so. Let's have a go at this one. So here we go. I'm going to draw my grid. I'm going to write this underneath. So 4. I know I've got x and y here, but they're different, so that's fine. I can keep that the same. There's no powers, there's no squares or cubes or anything like that. And then I've got my 3x. Okay? So, highest common factor. What's the highest number that goes into 4 and 3? Well, again, that's 1, so I can put my 1 here. And we can simplify that later. 1 times what gets me 4? It's going to have to be 4. Dealt with that, that's cool. 1 times what gets me 3 is 3, dealt with that, and I've got my plus can go there as well. So I've dealt with all the numbers, now I can deal with the letters, and I've got an x on both sides here. So I'm going to cross off the x from both. They're both common, so I can bring that out of my grid like so. And then there's a y here, but no y's here, so that's fine, that's left. So that goes at the top of the grid like so. And just like over here, 1x is simply x, and then this bit here goes into brackets, so 4y plus 3 goes into my brackets like so. Okay, so like we said, this one's a bit more interesting. So we draw the grid like so, okay, and we write it underneath. So there we go, 6, and I've got a cubed, which means a times a times a. I times it by itself 3 times. So I'm going to write a, and then I'm going to minus, and then I've got 3, and I've got a squared, which is a times a, so a like so. Okay, highest common factor then, once you've written that out. In this case, what's the highest number that goes into 6 and 3? Well, that's going to be 3. So I'm going to put that on the outside of my grid here. 3 times what gets me 6? That's a 2, so that's now done. 3 times what gets me a 3, so that's a 1, and that's done, and of course I've got my minus there as well. Excellent. Let's have a look at the letters. Well, I've got an A and an A, so I can bring out an A, but in this case I can also do it again, because I had 2 A's on, well, I've got 3 A's here, and I've got 2 A's here, so I can take out another A. Now I don't put 3AA, because a times a is a squared, so I do simplify that to a squared when I take out a second a, like so. What's left? Well, I've got that one there, and then I'm done. So let's write that out, 3a squared, and then I've got my 2a minus 1. So I'll leave that as minus 1, because there's nothing else to simplify, so I do need to have that minus 1 there. Okay, let's have a look. We've got 3, and it's a bit more juicy, so it's going to be a bit of a bigger grid here. That shouldn't be a problem. I'll preempt it being quite big. So let's write it out. So I've got 4x squared, so that's x times x, so xx. Then I've got my y plus my 6, x y squared, so yy, minus, and then just 2x's and all, so that's fine. And highest common factor. So what's the highest number that goes into 4, 6, and 2? So it has to be the highest common factor that does go into all 3. Well, 2 is the highest common factor in this case. 2 goes into 4, 2 goes into 6, and obviously 2 goes into 2. So I'll put that on the outside of my grid. 2 times what gets me 4, so that's a 2, and then that's that dealt with. 2 times what gets me 6, so that's a 3, that's dealt with. I'll put my plus in there, so that's done. And 2 times what gets me 2, well, that's going to be a 1, and again, that's dealt with, and I'll just put my minus up there as well. Let's deal with the letters, the variables. I've got an x, an x, and an x, so that's cool. So I can take that out. I do have an x here, but I don't have one there, and I don't have one there, so that's fine. Can't do nothing with that. Let's have a look with y's. I've got a y there, and a y there, so that's fine. I can take a y out. But I haven't got any more y's here, and I haven't got any more y's here, but I do have one there. So nothing else will come out, nothing else is common to all 3. So I'll just see what I'm left with. Well, I'm left with that x, I'm left with the y, and nothing is left there. So my final answer will be 2xy on the outside, and then 2x plus 3y minus 1 in brackets. And quite a complicated, horrible looking one there, but actually not too bad when you use the grid. Okay, I've got two more examples then. So the first one is going to be illustrating a point to make sure you have fully factorised an answer. So I'm going to deliberately do it wrong and then show you how you can check it, because this is where some people get the right method but they just mess up the highest common factor, and unfortunately then it messes it up and they don't get full marks. So hopefully this next tip will help. So I'm going to do it wrong. So they'll draw a grid and you go 6 and we've got a cubed, so a, b to the 4, so 4 b's. I've got my 18, I've got my a and b squared, so b and b, minus 13 and a squared, so a, b cubed, b, b, b. Okay, and then they'll go the highest common factor, and this is where they'll go slightly wrong. They won't pick the highest common factor, they'll pick a common factor. So I'm going to pick a common factor, not the highest. I'm going to do make a mistake here. So I'm going to say the highest common factor is a 2. 2 isn't the highest common factor, it's a common factor. So let's imagine we don't know that, and we do go through the process as normal. So 2 times what gets me 6, that's 3. 2 times what gets me 18, so that's 9. And I've got my plus here. 2 times what gets me 30 is 15, I've got my minus. And this is where you check it. These numbers that you've written here, do they have a common factor? So in other words, is there a number that goes into 3, 9 and 15? And in which case, in this particular case, there is 3. 3 will go into 3, 9 and 15. Now if that happens, if there is a number that goes into these, you haven't picked the highest common factor. In which case you need to go back and start again. So let's do that and make sure we get it right this time. So the grid was fine. So we've got the 6, we had the a, and then the b to the power of 4, so 4 b's, plus 18, a, and then my b squared, so bb, minus 30, a, and then b, b, b. So that bit was fine. So the highest common factor, so what is the highest common factor? So what's the highest number that goes into 6, 18 and 30? Well, that is 6. And if you have done this, it's really easy to spot. You just do 2 times 3, which gives you 6. Okay? And again, you should always check it that you have got the highest common factor, but that's the easy way to hopefully try and correct it. So always be careful that you do have the highest common factor. Okay, so let's carry on then and see what the actual answer is. So there's my highest common factor, which is 6. 6 times what gets me 6, that's 1. 6 times what gets me 18, so that's going to give me 3, and I'll put my plus in there, and then that's dealt with. And then 6 times 5 gets me 30, so that's dealt with, and of course I can then then put my minus in there. And we can now start looking at the variables, the letters. I've got an A, an A, and an A, so that's fine. So I'll have an A out. Are there any more? I've got one there, but I don't have one there. So that's it, I'm done with the A's. Let's have a look at the B's. One there, and one there. So that's cool. So I can put a B out. Can I get any more out? One there, and one there. So yes, I can take another one out. So again, if I take another one out, that becomes B squared, because I've taken 2 out. And obviously I can't do any more because there's no more B's here. So what's left then? I've got A times A, so A squared, and B times B, so that's B squared, that's fine. Nothing left here, so that stays as a 3, and I've got my A is left there, and I have 1B that's left there as well. So we can write the answer 6AB squared, and then in brackets, obviously 1A squared B, that will just simplify to A squared B squared plus 3 minus 5AB in brackets. Okay, so that's our final answer for that one. So that was just an example to try and help you spot if you haven't quite got the highest common factor. You'd still get marks for doing that, but you won't get full marks. So very, very important to get the highest common factor. And I've just included this absolute monster. This will never be in the exam, but it's just to illustrate that if you take your time, draw a grid, and do this method, no matter how horrible it looks, you'll very, very easily get the answer. So let's give this one a go. So this is going to be quite a big grid. So I'm imagining it's going to go all the way across the whole page. Why not? It's always good for a laugh. And let's start to break it down. So 10 x to the power of 4, so 4 x's. Y to the power of 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then z to the power of 3, so 3 of those. Minus 25 x cubed, so x, x, x. Y cubed, y, y, y. And z cubed, so z, z, z. Plus 40 x to the power of 5, so 5 x's, y to the power of 4, so 4 y's, and z to the power of 5, so 5 z's, minus 15 x squared to xx, y cubed, y, 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 and z to the power of 4, so 4 z's, all around that space, and then 5 x squared to xx, y cubed, y, 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 and a z, just about. Okay. Highest common factor then is the next step. What is the highest common factor that goes into 10, to 25, to 40, to 15, and to 5? So here I'm going to look at the lowest one here, which is 5, and just double check it goes into all of these, which it does. So the highest common factor here is 5. Okay, 5 times what gets me 10, so that's 2, and that's done. 5 times what gets me 25, so that's 5, and I'll put my minus sign as well. 5 times what gets me 40, so that's going to be 8, and I'll put my plus in, so that's done. 5 times what gets me 15, so that's 3, and of course I've got the minus, and then 5 times what gets me 5, so that's 1, and again I'll put my plus in there, so it's done, and all the numbers are done. Okay, let's start looking then at the variables. So x, 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 that's fine. So I can cross off 1x from everything, like so, and bring that out. Can I bring any more x's out? So I've got one there, got one there, got one there, got one there, and there. So that's fine, yeah, I can take another one out. So I'll just cross them off, like so, and again, that'll be x squared, because I take 2 out. Got one there, got one there, got one there, but I don't have any here. So that's it for the x's. So let's have a look for the y's. Y there, y there, y there, y there, and y there. So yep, I can take one out. Just make sure I cross them all off so I don't get any repeats. Got another one there, another one there, another one there, another one there, and another one. So yep. So that would be y squared, but be careful, because can you take another one out? Got another one that I can take out, yep. So there's also that. So if you take 3 out, obviously that'll mean that it's y cubed, because you've taken 3 out. But there's no more left here or here, so the y's are now done. So let's have a look at the z's. So I've got z there, z there, z there, z there, and one at the end there. So that's it, and I can't take any more out because there's no more z's here. Right, so that's it. I've taken out everything that's common. So let's have a look at what's left. I've got x, 2 x's here. X times x is x squared. I've got y times y, so that's y squared. And z times z, so that's z squared. So that's the first bit done. I've just got 1x left here, no y's, and I've got z times z. So that's z squared. X times x times x, so that's x cubed, that's left there. Just a single y. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 z, so z times z times z times z is z to the power of 4. And then that's that one done. No x's, no y's, just the 3 z's at the back there. So z times z times z is z cubed. And nothing is left here. Everything's been cancelled out, so I just leave that as plus 1. So how do we finish this off? Well, I've got 5x squared, y cubed z on the outside of the brackets, and then 2x squared y squared z squared minus 5x z squared plus 8x cubed yz to the power of 4 minus 3z cubed there, and then the plus 1 at the back, and we have finished. So if you can do that last one there, guys, without any hassle or help or making any mistakes, you can definitely factorise into single brackets. As I said, nothing like that will come up in the exam, but it's a great way to test to see if you can actually factorise into single brackets. And as I say, using this method takes a little bit of time, especially with something like this, but you ensure that you won't make any mistakes. The only thing that you might make a mistake on is that highest common factor, and if you do that little check that I showed you there, hopefully you should be able to spot that, and then it'll all be good. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Hope it helps. Cheers.